Hi, everybody. This is Meg Hansen. Happy New Year. And what a tumultuous beginning it has been for this 2021. So, I just wanted to share a few thoughts about where we are today as a society. A lot happened yesterday, and I just wanted to reflect together with you on this Facebook Live video. I hope that, I mean, it's afternoon, it's around 3 o'clock. I hope if you have any questions and thoughts that um, you'd have a chance to share it, because I would love for this to be a dialogue. So, as we all know, a lot happened yesterday. In the Georgia runoffs, Republicans lost both seats, and that handed a majority to the Dems, which means that on January 21st, the Democratic Party will have the presidency and control of both chambers of um, Congress. And so it's really going to be, one party control in DC. And of course, if you're a Democrat or an independent, or perhaps you really despise Trump, then maybe you're okay with it or you're happy with it. But, I mean, I'm a Republican, and I ran as a Republican in 2020. A lot of followers here on my page are not so happy with what's happened. And of course, this is sort of the ebb and flow, right, of politics. Sometimes one party's in power, sometimes another one. And there's give and take back and forth. I think, though, that a lot of people are concerned because this time it might be that a very radical far left agenda might be instituted, though Joe Biden won the primary, when he was running for the presidency, because he was a moderate, apparently, because he wasn't Bernie Sanders and that wing. But, there are concerns that now that he is going to have control, that you're going to have the AOCs and, the sort of more extreme faction of the Democratic Party impose a policy agenda that even people on the left or center left are not okay with. So I understand that those are sort of the concerns. But, that's not really why I'm doing this Facebook video, to talk about, oh my God, what's going to happen now that, the Republicans have lost Congress. I'm also actually not here to talk about the riots that happened yesterday in DC. Riots, of course, in which 4 people unfortunately died. Now, here's the thing: anyone who isn't a psychopath condemns violence, condemns, deaths that are caused by violence. So I see that it's the MO of anybody involved in politics to issue a press statement or make us, write a tweet, or basically position oneself above the rioters and say, no, this is what we condemn. Last year, we were against riots by BLM and Antifa, so we're definitely against the pro-Trump supporters, who were, involved in the Capitol riots, Capitol Hill riots. I don't need to say that. I'm not, I'm not here to state the obvious. As I said, nobody who is sane, normal, healthy, assimilated within society would be okay with the needless and really unfortunate deaths of people and violence and, the kind of images and videos that we saw yesterday. Nobody supports that, because that doesn't help us get anywhere. So that's not what I'm here to do. I would rather focus on what caused that. What causes people to feel that the only way out is to riot, whether it was last year, whether it's this year. What makes people feel that something is so wrong, that we have no avenue to safely express our feelings, to safely engage with society, that we are now compelled, or we feel driven to cause destruction and mayhem and violence. Now, this is not me saying, oh, yes, that's justified. No, I'm sure there'll be somebody who's watching, listening, and will skew what I'm saying. No, I'm not interested in justifying anybody. But I am very interested in understanding this, the current state, the crisis that we face as Americans right now in our politics and culture, because we certainly are in the midst of a crisis. If your fellow citizens, for whatever reason, feel that writing is the way forward, you know that something is fundamentally wrong and systemically broken. And that's what I want to reflect on with you today. The way that I feel when I see that the divisions between not just parties, because there's a lot of division intra Republican Party, just the divisions between the American peoples because of politics has grown so deep and so bitter that people are talking about a civil war, an actual hot civil war where red states and blue states sort of divide and and become two different nations. Now you might say, Meg, that's crazy talk. That's just conspiracy theories. Yes, perhaps. Or maybe the decibel of that has reached such a level that, even NPR, even I don't know what you would call mainstream media are acknowledging the existence of these feelings. And so I think that I think it speaks to something far deeper, far graver. And if we don't together sit and acknowledge it and expose it to the sunlight and find solutions together, if we don't do that, then that's going to cause even more chaos, just even more divisions and just an even more fractured and bitterly divided America, which of course somebody like China would love. Our enemies would love that. America is the number one superpower. I mean, so many countries depend on us, see us as leaders. And so if you can say, oh, look, America's devolved into a third world nation, look at it, they're all at each other, of course, our enemies are going to love it. And well, I'm not okay with that. One thing that I've been very clear about is that my loyalty, my commitment is to Vermonters and broadly to American people, to the American people. My real belief is that before we go ahead solving problems, in other nations who are in need, we really need to take care of our own. We have so many issues here, especially a place like Vermont. When you look at the working class situation, when you look at the middle class, when you look at the fact that so many businesses have had to shut down because of COVID, which is all it's done is worsened the existing economic stagnation and decline that Vermont has been facing for many, many years. When you look at all of that, my concern is our politicians and our leaders need to be focused on uplifting the average American before we go around, funding gender studies and all kinds of other experiments in other nations. That's where I look at this and I approach it. I approach it from a very pro-America point of view. And when I say pro-America, of course, we're 330 million of us. But really, the average person, the average family who is rooted, whose livelihood, whose world is rooted locally. So this really is a divide, as I've talked about in my previous videos. It's a divide between a globalized America and a localized America. And we're not going to have either or. It's both. There are people whose livelihoods, whose jobs are dependent on a globalized economy, one where factories and other modes of production are outsourced to China and other countries so that, takes care of all the labor laws. They don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about unions, and the profit margin goes up really high. There's that aspect, the technology aspect. There are people who are part of that economy. But then there are also millions of Americans whose livelihoods are dependent on local economies. Whether you're a truck driver, whether you have a small business, whether you're a farmer, it's rooted in local conditions. And the way that the divide has happened, I really don't think it's so much of a Democrat Republican, although that's definitely there, like right or left politically. The divide really is between people who benefit from a more globalized economy and Americans who need local America, small town America, to be thriving and flourishing, for them to have the kind of life that their parents and grandparents had. So that if that's the division, then my loyalties, my commitment is certainly, and I'm very clear about that, to the latter, to Americans who are dependent on a thriving America, where if we have our small towns, our rural communities here thriving, so not just New York or LA or San Francisco, but really every town being self-sufficient, every state having a flourishing, boosting economy, not dependent on bailouts from the federal government, which is what is the state with Vermont, but really having a flourishing, thriving, prosperous local economy that uplifts the lives of middle class and working class Americans. That's my concern. And I don't know what the future holds when we look at our state government, when we look at now the federal government. Joe Biden and the Democrats, they really campaigned on tax increases. So, everybody says that you don't need like a majority. There's something known as a budget reconciliation process. I won't get in the weeds of it, but there's a way by which whichever party is in the majority in Congress is able to enact tax increases without having to worry about the minority party. So definitely I'm for, it's not just me, the policy think tanks are also foreseeing tax increases, and that's going to hurt people in Vermont. So I'm concerned about that when you look at, sort of the technical aspect. But I'm also really concerned about the state of despair. There's widespread demoralization that really is sunk in everywhere. And I'm not just saying on the right. Of course, it's more on the right because, the right lost really federally. But really, even for people who are independents, people who are center left, people who don't really believe in a one party system or one party rule, whether it's at the state level or federal level, there is this deep demoralization and despair about, as I talked about, the bitter divisions and the polarization and the violence, the fracturing of our nation. And so as we reflect on that, I think this is how I see moving forward, how, of course we can't control how other people act or think, but we're masters of our own lives. And so we are in control of how we conduct ourselves. So this is how I'm thinking of approaching it, how I have been doing, but I'm really going to really lean into this, is that everybody has thoughts and opinions, whether, sentiments, whether it's anger, whether it's outrage, whether it's despair, hope. Everybody has feelings and thoughts, and they should be allowed. All of us should be allowed to express it in a healthy and safe way. However, if you're not allowed to say what you feel or to express your concerns, then that's what leads to all the problems. So if there is an arbitrary process whereby, whether it's a tech company or the local authorities or the politicians decide that your views and your concerns are hate speech or illegitimate or conspiracy theories or toxic, whatever label they want to put it, and stamp it out and say, no, there's no room for that, that's what will lead to this kind of deeper divisions, fracturing, violence, because now you're not finding an avenue to actually say what you want. Now, there are a lot of people who say a lot of things with which I don't agree. But when they say it, my thought is we can debate it, we can talk about it, we can debunk it, or we can agree to disagree and go our own ways. But you have to be able to express what you feel. You have to feel like there are people who are listening to you, who hear you, whether they ultimately agree with your outcomes or not. You have to feel like you have an outlet. And I think that's more and more sort of disappearing as we're seeing Facebook, Twitter and a lot of these tech giants that really consolidated powers into monopolies, deciding that, okay, well, this is not okay, this is okay, we're going to take down these videos, we're going to take down these tweets. And that kind of arbitrary power, the sort of discretion that they're using based on their parameters and what they feel is good or bad to decide, our social discourse. I think that's really problematic. What's the solution? People have found Parler or MeWe or other avenues. People are trying to find out their own ways of expressing it. But you know what? I mean, you're not just going to leave Facebook. If you, like, for example, I worked really hard in creating this page. It has about 3,000 followers. I'm not just going to leave it. I can't do that, right? I mean, here's a place where we all connect. We have our personal profiles. We're connected with our family and friends all across America, all across the globe. And there really isn't an equivalent alternative to something like Facebook or Twitter. And why not? Because when they were coming up, Facebook bought them out. That's how you get a monopoly. I mean, that's what Google has done. That's what a lot of Silicon Valley giants have done. And they obviously have protections to ensure that they, were able to consolidate the power. And so now the way we have the tech landscape, we have certain big giants calling all the shots. And I mean, I guess you can walk away from it, but if you want to engage with fellow people, your fellow citizens and other people, if you want to engage with them in this way that I am right now, how can I do that? How can I reach, you in the comfort of your home where I'm sharing these views other than this medium right now? Unless I have a show, maybe on national television, how do I do that? Or a radio show, a syndicated show. I can't really do that, but this is a free avenue by which I can reach out to you and you can reach out to me. So there is benefit in that, of course, though it's being abused, in a way that, well, none of us have much power. And so that sense of powerlessness and helplessness feeds into the demoralization and feeds into non-constructive ways of expressing it, whether it's violence or, fighting, trolling, on and on. They're all different kinds of really negative and destructive ways through which that sense of helplessness and that sense of being wronged and outrage gets channeled. So I think that, I mean, the only way that I know to make it okay is by practicing in my life, and I'll continue to do that, an openness to people's points of view, whether I agree with it or not, and an openness to listening to what other people have to say, whether I agree with it or not, and having a healthy debate. Now, sometimes people might say things that are really outrageous, but you can still deal with it in a civil manner. You can see the humanity in the other person, and you can still have a dialogue. That's something that I'm really going to strengthen my commitment toward. I think it's really, really important. And I hope I don't come across as if I'm preaching. I'm not preaching. I'm just saying, just wanted to share with you how I will deal with the situation, the crisis that we are in moving forward. I think it's absolutely vital that everybody has a voice. And I think it's important to fight for everyone, especially those who feel like they don't have a voice, that they're being silenced, they don't have an avenue whereby they can express their thoughts, whatever their thoughts may be, whatever their feelings are. I don't agree with this idea of arbitrarily saying this is hate speech and this is not. I don't care if it's hateful or vitriolic. If you have something to say it, and then other people can choose to ignore it or engage with it, or have an argument with you or say, you know what, no, I don't want to engage with that. Go ahead. These are your thoughts. I don't agree with it. But that sort of back and forth, healthy dialogue and debate is what informs our First Amendment. What informs an informed society, an informed public, an engaged, active, involved public. a peoples that is not apathetic, not cynical, not prone to conspiracy theories or reactionary thoughts, not prone to violence and bitter divisions. If you don't want that, you need to have a healthy space where we can all talk to each other, where we all see the humanity in one another. That's really important. Now, there are so many people who hate me just because I ran as a Republican candidate. I hope we can go beyond that. I hope we can see that, you know what, a person is not completely informed or by some political views they may or may not hold. There's so many aspects to who we are. But first and foremost, we're all Americans. We here are Vermonters, and we're bound together. We're not going to have a war. We're not going to divide into blue America and red America. We're all here in this together. We have to make it work together. We really have to make it work together. We can't vilify entire factions of our society, laughing at them, treating them with, with disdain or contempt, and finding, any opportunity to position yourself with virtue signaling or press statements, as if you are somehow superior to others with whom you disagree. That has become the norm more and more, and that's destructive. And that's not what I'm here for. That's not at all what I will ever engage with. So just to end, I want to say that whether you're in Vermont or, if I can reach you beyond through Facebook, if you feel that you're not being able to express your views, I want you to know that we're in this together, that we will figure this out together. I'm not going anywhere. Especially if you're in Vermont, I'm involved with Vermont politics and policy making. I'm here with the local media, so I'm definitely somebody that I hope you will feel comfortable to reach out to and talk. You can always find me, by email or here on Facebook Messenger or Facebook posts. But, I will say, if you live in New Hampshire or Connecticut, don't feel like, oh, I can't really talk to Meg. No, I think that we need more and more people who have some kind of platform. I have a small one here, to step up and be a voice for those who don't have any, and to sort of bring us together. So that's my hope. My sincere hope is to be there for you. I want you to know that I hear you. I hear you, whatever. I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of despair. I feel a lot of despair. I feel a lot of demoralization. But I'm committed to working through it. And so I just really want to say that you're not alone. Please don't feel alone. In a state like Vermont, which Wired magazine just a few years ago said was the worst state in the nation when it comes to toxic trolls, in a state like Vermont, you might feel really wary when it comes to engaging online, and I don't blame you. But here on our page here, the Meg Hansen page, I'm not running for any office, but this is our page, our small community. I just want you to know that this is a safe, happy, healthy space where you are welcome to share your opinions, and we will talk about it. We'll work through this together. You're not alone. No matter what you're feeling, this is a safe space for you to, and I'm saying safe space, people will mock that. All I mean, it's not a buzzword. All I mean is this is a place where you can express your thoughts, and you have a healthy way to engage with your fellow Vermonters, fellow American citizens. You're not going to be shut down. That's not going to happen. I think that when you look at trolls, and some trolls were like, oh, my comments get deleted, my comments get blocked. Yeah, if you're going to write, sexually explicit, disgusting statements, if you're going to tell me to go back to India and fight with other people, I don't know I don't know what's going to come from that. But if you're not a psychopath, you're not a sociopath even, you're just a concerned citizen, no matter what your party, and you want to talk about things and you want to engage together in a healthy, constructive way, then this right here is a place where I hope that you will feel welcome to share your opinions. That's all I want to say. Just that, it's difficult for a lot of us going forward. And maybe you just feel like, oh, everything's gone back to normal. The same old politicians have gotten reelected in Bennington County. It's the same senators. They're not going to do anything about me or for me. Maybe you feel that way, and maybe you're a Democrat. It doesn't matter. If you feel like you don't have a voice, if you feel like you want to engage in a constructive and healthy way with your fellow citizens, my page, our small community is the place for it, and I'm committed to creating that and fostering that, and being available to share this and figure this whole thing out together with you this year and the next and the next. As I said, I'm not going anywhere, and you know what? I'm here. I'm here to be your friend and ally. All right, with that, till next time.